Yo, hey, how's it going here? I am going to do a tutorial, maybe it'll be short, for drawing a tree, and just follow along. I'm just using a pencil, 2H, doesn't really matter, and a Staedtler ink pen. That doesn't really matter either. So. And I'm just drawing on watercolor paper because I like drawing on watercolor paper. It really doesn't matter what type of paper you draw on, really. So anyways, let's begin. First thing you want to do is just pencil in just do a rough pencil sketch. Just keep it simple. Here's my trunk, like that. Yours can look different than mine if you want, doesn't matter. Some branches coming off like that. And then maybe I'll have another secondary trunk, or the main trunk continues up like that. So, and I got these little branches that come off the sides like that. And so yeah, it's pretty easy with a tree. You're operating with basically cylinders, really, right? So all trees is made up of many different cylinders of varying sizes and dimensions. So, right? There's like your main cylinder here, and then there's a couple of cylinders off like that. So, and you got another cylinder right here, like that. So, like, you just keep in mind that your perspective line, where that is. So, obviously, the part of your cylinder that's below the horizon line is you're going to be looking down onto it, right? And the part of the tree trunk cylinder, which is above the horizon line, you're going to be looking up at it like that. So you're going to see it up. So you're going to be looking up towards it, right? And same thing with these branches here, right? You're going to be looking up towards them, right? So then as soon as you get your basic shape, you can start to sort of pencil it in a little better or more. Start showing some more details and give yourself a better idea of what it's going to look like when it's done, right? So, and then for out here, just draw some circles. This is representing your foliage here. Obviously, yours is going to look different than mine. I mean, your paper may be vertical. I like doing everything horizontal simply because of, how I have the camera positioned, right? I find it just crops better on the video. And the same principle works for any type of tree. It could be pine trees, broadleaf trees, I guess even palm trees too, as well. So now that we have that established, we'll just go back and just to sort of start to get some organic shape here to your foliage. Actually, I'm going to make this one a little bit different, like this. And put this one over like this. And right in the back, at the top of the tree, just have another clump of trees, leaves in there for you. So let's say that this will be the dark area here, like in the shadow mostly, right? This area here as well. And actually I'm going to change this like this. If a branch coming off like that, maybe another one off like that. So this will be a dark area as well. And then maybe a little dark area with branches coming off here as well. So once you got that established, you can kind of start to go back in. I'm going to use an ink pen. You don't have to use ink pen. You can use maybe a darker pencil, or maybe if you're going to do a painting, the same step at the beginning all apply. But in this case, I'm doing ink. Go back over here and just sort of outline this. You don't have to follow this exactly. This outline here for the tree foliage. It's more just a guide for yourself when you go back and you start your hatching or whatever texture you're going to be using here. So as you can see in the front, because there's a foreground, middle ground, and background here. So in the background, obviously the foliage is going to go back behind the tree here. So again, this area here is still going to be shaded. This area here I'll probably just make darker when I get to it. So, and same thing here. This is going to be shaded. Again, this is going into the background behind that the tree, large tree branch there. So another shaded area there. So just keep in mind this area here is going to be darker than obviously this area up here. So if you assume that your sun is over here somewhere, then you got your light coming this way. So that way your shadow is all going to be, this is all going to be shadow, 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 shadow. This is all going to be shadow through here, right? So, sorry about that. I'm left-handed, so everything I draw, I always try to remind myself not to block when I'm drawing out here. You don't have to hatch this. I'm really more or less just hatching it really just for my own sake, just so I remember that that area is going to be darkened out. So I know this is kind of a weird shaped tree, but I'm just trying to make it fit inside the paper here, really. So let's just assume now that we got the shape fairly well established here, right? So let's just assume that this whole area here is going to be shadowed, in the shadow, right? So, and all but obviously because of this is in the branches here, this is going to be shadowed as well. So this is all shadow. This is all going to be shadowed as well. Not as dark as this area, if possible, unless you're going for a certain look. So then we got the sunlight coming like this. So we're going to have a bit of a shadow here and more over here. Kind of like that. And then up here, shadow. Now mind you, I know the sun is here, setting, I guess, so there is still some light refracting off the sky, clouds and everything like that. So obviously there's going to be shadow here because the sun's here, but the shadow won't be as intense as it would be, say, down here, for example, right? So I got some shadow going on here as well. Put some shadow here, just to sort of break it up so that way you know there's more of a, that this area here is in the background of this area which is in the foreground, just to give it more of a three-dimensional appearance. We'll do the same thing here as well. Got the shadow, a little bit of shadow here. Shadow, shadow, like that. Again, this hatching, I'm just using it for my own reference. I probably should have done it in pencil, but I'm just going very light, so you probably won't even notice that afterwards. After I begin to texturize my drawing here. So we get our horizon line like that. So let's begin here. I'm just going to start drawing in the bark like this. Actually, what I'm going to do first, I'm going to do this. Just do some guidelines, just so I can sort of follow them from my bark direction. So yeah, we got the bark going like this, and then up here, curves here, and then it goes up like that. And I'll just do this part in pencil, actually. Yeah, so we just got the curve here. Oops, this is going to be straight here. So the bark's going to start to curve down, and then above the horizon line, it's going to start to curve up. One thing to remember that, because when you're doing the bark, I'll just do a little example in the corner, because like what I said about the cylinders. Here's your cylinder here. I'll say, oh, okay, well, this is horizon line. Let's put the horizon line for this one. So yeah, just remember that because it's on a curvature, because everything bends around the sides, that what you see here, let's say, for example, you're drawing a bunch of circles. If you can see that, let me do it in pen. Let me do it in ink. So it's easier to see. It's your horizon line. So just remember, yeah, like I said, everything goes around around a curvature. And there's here, and everything above the horizon line goes around the curvature as well, but it bends up. So let's say you're just doing a bunch of circles. They're all going to be on a flat plane. But as you get around the sides, everything starts to look more oval shaped, those circles. Yeah, you get your shadow here, right? Okay, so let's begin here. I'll start right here, actually. I'm going to actually speed up the footage here at this point. So you can do little elements in the tree branch if you wanted to, like let's say right here. See, I don't know, you had like a little tree knot or a gouge where there used to be a branch or something, right? So it's nice if you're going to have these little details to do them first. So that way you don't forget them. And you can just sort of incorporate your drawing into it as you're doing your texturizing. And as you can see, I'm using these lines here. That helps a lot. It gives me something to follow, or I'm not having to stress myself out about it, or that if I'm maybe going at a wrong angle or something like that, because if I get overwhelmed visually, I can just use these guides as a follow along, right? And again, like I did ink them in, but they disappear nicely into the bark work. I'm making up my own words here. Yeah, texturizing and bark work. Those are completely made up words. Any professional artists out there that are well versed in all the lingo. These type of drawings actually are good for just exercises. I have another video on here for drawing textures that I did there several days ago that I would recommend just watching. And I know what you're thinking, I'm trying to get YouTube views, but my point is just watch it, and I'll try to remember to put the link down below. But if you just watch it and just treat it like a gym exercise. You know, you go to the gym to exercise, and the more you exercise, the better you become, better healthy you become, and more fit you become. And same thing with drawing. The more you practice and you do these little small exercises like hatching or doing textures or just shapes, things like that, you can build up that your fine motor skills. You know, become an even better artist than you already are. I don't know who's watching this video. You could be 10 times better than me. The point, but I mean, we're all good at different things, right? I like drawing nature elements, and especially like drawing like abandoned buildings, things like places like that, like an abandoned farm out in the country or whatever, right? Now, if as you're drawing and you don't like what you're seeing, you're going to have to trust me on this, because it happens to me 70% of the time. Just trust me on this and just finish it. Because I find that things that I start, that if I don't like it and I want to just trash it and tear it up and throw it in the recycle bin box, that when I actually go back and actually finish those drawings, I find they're the ones that are that become my favorite drawings. It's weird how that works. So yeah, if you don't like how it looks, how you're drawing, just finish it, because like, again, it is kind of a practice exercise, right? You're here to learn how to draw trees and tree trunks or tree bark, whatever. Or maybe you just came and watched the part of my drawing that kind of dealt with the part of this video that dealt with the perspective drawing aspects of it. And if you've gone this far into my video, I do have a request that you can make a comment and answer a question that I have. I see a lot of art videos that have this music playing in the background. Do people like that? If I do put music in this, I'll put it down really low so it doesn't overwhelm, just like a soft melody, or maybe just nature sounds like birds chirping or something. I don't know. Another question. How do people feel about the time lapse? They're not really tutorials, but it's just when I just draw something, I'll time lapse myself or record myself drawing it, right? I know there are times in the video, those videos, where I get so zoned into it, like I got my headphones on and I forget myself, and then I put my friggin' head right in the camera shot. I know people don't like that, and when I'm editing my videos after I've compiled all my video footage, I usually try to crop all that stuff out. But obviously, when I crop it out, that 4K video, or that part of that video, was no longer 4K. It's cropped down to like 1920 by 1080 or something, whatever. How much I've had to crop out to get my bloody head out of the camera. I'm not sure how that happens. I mean, it just must be the aperture on my camera here. Again, just remember what I said there about how everything bends around the sides, around the curvature. So my bark around the sides is going to be a lot more condensed than it is in the center area, right? Just like when you look at a globe of the Earth, right? Like if you have it in front of you, hold it out in front of you, all the continents and land masses they bend around the side, right? And they all look mel-shaped. Another made-up word, mel-shaped. Until you turn that globe, right? Continent or country landmass then obviously it looks properly proportioned. So same thing when you walk around a tree, right? Everything curves around the side, but that part that was that was malformed around the side, you go around to that part of the tree and you look at it straight on, and then you probably know what I mean, right? I think. So here's my bark. This is very tedious doing this, so I'm actually just going to go in and draw some grass blades here. Quickly do this. I'm going to speed up my camera here. Just sort of make it look like it's not floating in midair, right? So what I mentioned before, just with my thought process about my shaded areas here. So let's just go back and just start to say, okay, so maybe this area here is a little bit dark. And maybe it's not a perfect cylinder. Maybe it curves in, and then it curves in this way as well. So when I'm doing shading like this, I'll actually I keep my my ink pens that start to lose ink, start to fade out, because I find if I use those for shading a lot of times, and I find they're very good for creating shading and lighter lines. That's a nice, gives a certain realism, I find, when you have shadow and different shading, and you try to go you see how I'm bending here with the tree trunk here, right? So we got a little bit of a thing. The tree branch comes down here. This area is a little bit darker. I guess maybe a little bit of shadow here as well around this little knot in the tree. So you could have a little animal sitting there. Like if you're a picture, let's say you did a large painting, you can have like a little animal sitting there, a squirrel or a bird or whatever. Sometimes I gotta watch myself. Sometimes I get a little overkill on the bark. So sometimes I like to do this. I go back. I look at areas that kind of stick out for me, and I'll just highlight them. You see what I'm doing? I'm just following some of the bark lines. Not every one, just I'm grouping them in clumps. I really like how that looks. It gives it a real aged appearance. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so now I'm going to go in here and start to do this. Oh, maybe I should start over here. So you don't have to go crazy like this, but it's just the way I am. I like to draw these little squiggly lines. So I'm actually just going to completely finish one area here before I go into the next. So it gives you guys the choice if you want to hang around for this video or not for the whole thing. Wow, okay, that's very tedious. Just give you a heads up. So now I'm going to go back and just do some area shading here. So I'm just going to be shading with the same principle as make this area a lot darker. Around here, do a little bit of shadow down here. Not as much. And how it sort of fades up. And then it kind of, the darkness tapers off as you get towards the light. You kind of see what I've got done here. No. So these areas here are just going to be solid dark. If you have like an ink brush, you can just go in here and ink that. Let me just show you something here. I'm going to do something. I've got one of these Japanese ink brushes here, so I'll just show you. You can just quickly do these areas like that, but just make sure that the ink is similar to your pen ink, otherwise it's going to look obvious. So hopefully that'll look okay. So actually what I'm doing here is for every little clump of branches, I'm going around in kind of a circle. I started out like this, and went like this, and then into the perimeter. That's another way. I didn't really do it as much here, but again, I'm doing it now. So it's a good way to sort of show the, give it a three-dimensional look, so it looks like it's coming out at you. If you use an ink brush, just maybe practice on a separate sheet of paper just to get the hang of it, because it's extremely unforgiving. If you do it like that or something like that, that's it, you're toast. So you definitely want to have your dark hatch areas represented with your hatching. You know that that is the area that's going to be dark, and you don't want to accidentally ink over an area that should be light. Also, when you do this as well, you'll probably figure it out depending on the paper you use. This will vary. Longer, you'll have to wait longer if you're using like a mixed media or like a Bristol paper. Like I'm using a watercolor paper, so it absorbs it fairly quickly. But when you do this after you're done, just go back and go make yourself a coffee or have your lunch or whatever. And I'm left-handed, start over here, work over. Because if I started here, did this way, it'd be all smeared like to crap. So yeah, I'm just gonna let that sit for a second. That's it for this. I mean, it's kind of a weird shaped tree, but I just, again, an exercise. I made the tree fit the paper. If it was my own artwork time lapse, I would have probably done the paper vertically. So, and let me just go in and erase all this pencil lines. So this paper actually, more or less, not perfect, but it does erase nicely though. Not perfect, but it's good. So yeah, I just, okay, look, anything else I need to touch up here? Oh, maybe this right here. That is it for that. So I hope you got something out of this. I did. just like an exercise, just like going to the gym. You know, it'll help you out when you do your work of art, and it'll help me out when I do my my work of art, which I'll time lapse for you guys later on. So thanks you for watching this, and God bless.